Hello, I'm Ann Marie Fleming. I'm an independent filmmaker and animator sitting in my messy office in Vancouver, and I'm here as part of the Spark Animation Festival 2021, part of their Independent Auteur series. And today I have great pleasure to have a conversation with Signe Baumane, and she's talking to me from her studio in Brooklyn. And I have some things that I'd like to say about Signe, and I looked most of these up on the web. So if any of them are incorrect, please just jump in and correct me, okay? So Signe is a Latvian animator, and she started her career, if I can call it that, writing and publishing poems and short stories from the age of 14. After that, she studied philosophy at the University of Moscow, and then was working in Riga at an animation studio. If I'm right, it's the Dalka studio. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Okay. And where you made several films and also worked in commercials, I understand, and that's your early influences. And I think this is really important because now that I've read them, I see them, I can see them in your work. I can see them. The work of the Lithuanian-Polish illustrator Stasi Edrigivicius. Close?
Stasis Idrigavicius, but yeah, I probably don't get it right myself. Yeah, the last name.
Good. Oh my God, I could not even have tried. The Czech animator Jan Svankmajer, of course, Yuri Norstein, and well, I guess Bill Plympton, and amongst others. And so you worked in puppet theater, also very interesting. And then you made some of your own animated films through the Dalka studio, and then came here, or not there, to New York City and worked as a cell animator, production manager for Bill Plympton, and then became, well, I guess you got your green card as an extraordinary alien in 1998. And since then, you've been making your own films through your own studio. Now, there's just so much, there's so much to talk about with you, but I have to tell you, I'm just going to insert that my first introduction to you was in 2010 at the Doxa Film Festival in Germany, in Leipzig, where they were celebrating the animated doc. And you were there, and I think you were having like a late night screening of your Teat Beat series, which I went to, and I was just amazed. Like, it's packed with all of these young, crazily excited people that were like screaming when you came on stage. It was like you were a rock star. I was so crazily intimidated. I was so crazily intimidated. I went, oh my God, who is this woman? It was fantastic. You don't remember it that way? Anyway, I do. And so it was, and since then I've got to, I know that I was one of your, one of the participants in your two Kickstarter projects,
Thank you.
Rocks in My Pocket, and My Love Affair of Marriage, which is soon to be completed, I understand, very excited. And I would just like to say,
yay! Yes.
I love Signe Baumane. So this is totally a fan interview, just to warn people. And you know, I don't even know where to start. I mean, we have a lot of things in common because we're both, you know, women of a certain age who are still making independent work in the world. And I'm actually going to, you know, I'm going to read two things and then I'm going to let you speak. Okay, and the first one is actually your words from your site about what you do. The thing that interests me as an artist, I am Signe Baumane now, one of the things is the interaction of the inwardly personal with the outwardly social. We all have deeply personal experiences that we don't discuss, but we feel them, and when we externalize them, they become stories. Most likely they become really removed from the original inner experience. I want to bridge the gap between the internal and external. I want to communicate what it really feels like to be alive and go to a dentist or have sex or be depressed. And yes, I do often address difficult, uncomfortable subjects in my films because I believe in confronting the things that bother me head on. And I think that is what you do. That is not just what you say, that is what you do in your work. And I also think, which is in our email chain about what we're going to talk about. And you came up with all of these different discussions, you know, that were potentials. And I would like to go through all of them. And the first one is, maybe we can talk about how our personal lives inform our creative work, because that is the essence of everything. Go.
Oh, no. First of all, I'm a big fan of your work and everything you do. So I really, you know, so this is like a fan interview, both sides. So, I think I've seen all the Window Horses like 3 times. So I think it's a spectacular movie, and I want to see it again. But how the personal informs our creative, I think as an artist, in some ways, the way for me to stay independent, I don't even know where to start, actually. There's like 2 threads, right? A lot of people go into arts because they think that they're going to, you know, be a Disney artist or Pixar artist, right? And so they say, okay, I'm gonna study arts or animation, and I'm gonna be working for this big corporation, helping them to make these films. I want to be part of this something larger than me and help be part of this group effort. And to me, personally, there's like nothing wrong with it, but to me, that is a little bit more to the crafts rather than arts. For me, the arts is the self-expression. And so there are this other group of people who go because they feel the arts it should be form for them to express something they cannot say or cannot express in another way. And so these people go and study arts for many, many years, and then they discover that there's no way of making living, you know, and then they have to find another way. And so the arts stay for them a little bit more on the side as a hobby, you know, like a form of self-expression, but it's a hobby. And I think it's tragic both ways, you know, and I think that to me, what I want to do, I want to be able to express what I want to express and use the art for my like artistic expression and express my view on the world and point of view, and also somehow provide myself with, you know, with food to eat and place to work and live. And so then the personal comes in this, because it's a philosophy, it's like a philosophy of an artist. So what do I do as an artist? And so, yeah, I express my personal point of view, my, you know, point of view on the world, and I put it in a certain images and certain words. At the same time, I also have to make living and all that. So anyway, so I don't know, it's just that there's a conflict between one and the other, I feel. But the themes, the subjects, you know, that come to us, you know, they are not enforced to me from outside. There's no like Pixar coming to me and saying, I want you to make a film about dancing rabbits and they have to have blue tails, right? It's the project, one project ends and you say, well, that was great, I made a film about depression, what's the next thing? And so then you are facing this big field of unknown and possibilities, and it's kind of frightening and also unsettling, and it gives you a headache and uncertainty and anxiety. And so then you pick, and I pick the theme based on who am I and what I want to do, you know. And so that in this case, after the film about depression, of course, naturally came the film about marriage. So
But it's interesting, of course, you're talking about Rocks in My Pockets. Is that your film on transgenerational depression?
yes.
But I think if you go back to your films like Birth, like your series on Beats of Sex, and even going to My Love Affair for Marriage, yeah, they are all on a continuum, and they are all about a female experience. They're from a very particular female experience. History is very important to you, and how that plays into the formation of our personal psyche, right? And also what's interesting, I know that My Love Affair of Marriage is like a marriage of, excuse me for repeating, but a marriage of like love and science, right? The personal and science. And it's interesting because your subject matter is so squishy. It's all about human emotions, but you have such a logical and progressive and straightforward way of presenting the information, you know? Like I think even in, but marriage, well, I guess it's just sexuality. I guess it's just being a woman, like what being a woman means, what being human means, how sexuality is essential in it, right? And how what culture and society does to that sexuality and the roles that women are stuck in. Like that seems to be the consequences of being born a woman, right?
I know, it is enraging. I mean, Tidbit of Sex actually came from this rage that the disconnect of what I felt or what my experience was and what reality of me as a sexual being was, and the expectations. And I'm like, where did it come from? It's like, you guys, if you really want to fuck a sexual woman, you know, you want a woman to be really responsive to your advances, you know, this is not, your expectations are unrealistic, right? And of course later on I you know, like you know, you realize where it's coming from, and it has nothing to do with sex, you know, it's about something else. But I was thinking, if really like people want to you know, experience a truly sexual woman, a woman who really understands sex, you know, in a way, like her own body and her awareness, and also in the mind and all, you know, that the societal expectations or pressures, how what sex is and how sexy is, it's like totally in conflict with natural sexuality, with natural sexual self-expression. So that was a rage that made the tidbits come from, you know. And I think, I mean, probably it shows, you know, there's like just like incomprehension and rage.
Well, it's also funny. I'm going to do a weird segue from sex to IP, right? Intellectual property, because I did watch a little YouTube explaining how Beats came into being and why you landed up going with a different producer who didn't take all your IP, right? Because it's at every stage, it's about power and control, right? And interestingly, on your website, you know, you start off by talking about yourself as an artist and a director and illustrator and animator, but you don't say the word producer, which you are, right? In almost every case, and how important that is. Could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, I mean, being producer for your own films is definitely necessity for an independent a filmmaker, because who else is gonna do it for you? And then that it gives, I mean, you know, I would say I became producer not because I wanted to be a producer, but because I wanted to make films, and I didn't even distinguish where is the producer and where is the director, you know. For me in the beginning it was the same thing, and then like later on I was like, oh wait a minute, what, this is the producer thing, this is not what director should be doing. The same way how now I'm doing a lot of stuff and I realize it's not a you know, it's not a directorial thing, it's a production managing thing, you know, like, so it's like in a professional studio or in a big corporate studio, those jobs are separate entities, you know, and so in independent filmmaking case, independent animation case, it is probably the same. But yeah, you know, at some point you understand that you want to control or you want to have ownership of the thing that you're making. And I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, you know, but and I probably would have given up the intellectual property rights for Tidbit of Sex if the offer was right. But the offer was ridiculous. It was just really, really, I don't even know how that offer could come, that for $1,000 they would want to own everything, and that they would be like, if we feel generous, we would allow you to screen film at the festivals. And I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind? Like, at that point, I mean, I was old enough to know it was like not just wrong, it was like beyond wrong, like abusive, and you know, I can't even find the words to describe it, but obviously uh, that was a working model at that time, you know, for a lot of people who wanted to have content for cheap, but they also wanted to legally protect themselves, so they wanted to have everything. So yeah, I see, as a producer now, though, for My Love Affair is Marriage, I mean, one of the producers, we are 4 producers now, you know, like, because of the countries and because my partner Sturgis is actually more actively producing than I am. I really have no time. Yes, Sturgis, my life partner, and also a producer for My Love Affair is Marriage, and also for Rocks in My Pockets. He is my life partner, so it was only natural that he joined the team, and now he's really inseparable from the project. Like, it's like, you know, without him, I would say there would be no project. And then Robert Svinovskis was a co-producer for Rocks in My Pockets. And then, and now he's a co-producer for My Love Affair is Marriage. So anyway, but being also a producer, as I was saying, makes you think about stuff, you know, like you can't, for example, put just song into in the movie. You know, I had a temp track and I had a famous song, and I wanted to use it, and I have to get the rights and I have to get permissions and I have to pay for it. So it kind of makes you aware, you know, about what is material, creative material, and responsibilities also towards other artists' work. So
yeah, it's interesting. You know, intellectual property means so many different things to different people, and there's a lot of people don't understand the potential value of that, or it's your rights, or why they're important. And I think that with especially with dissemination on the internet now, and people you know, grabbing from other people all the time, you can say that it's a great cultural sharing, but it's also stealing, and who is actually benefiting from all this. I've always kept as much IP, if not all my IP, and I haven't say that it hasn't been beneficial yet, but it's really important to me. If you,
the thing is, yeah.
No, go ahead.
What? No, you know, I think that there is a value of keeping IP, you know, unless the price is right, But I think that for example, if for My Love Affair is Marriage, or even Rocks in My Pockets, you know, if we didn't have E&O insurance for the film, we couldn't release it in a movie theater. And so we had to have the forms and have the people sign, and there's laws. And you say that anything goes in this like free sharing environment. It isn't. Law is still a law. And you say, when you say that IP means so many different things for people, it doesn't. By law, there's a clear definition. And as a producer, you learn what the law is, and then it makes you realize the boundaries between one and the other. And I think it's a good thing. I think that producing should be taught in every school, you know, not just directing. Directing is just like one thing, but I think that producing informs you as a director also, you know, like a clarity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of things obvious. There's a lot of conversations you don't have to have that when you know some of the basics of the law, of the business that you are working in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
if I can turn back to art a little bit. It's interesting. I'm looking at your two features, Rocks in My Pockets and My Love Affair Marriage, which I've been able to see some clips that are very exciting. And you use a similar technique, is that you are in a 3D world, like a real world, and your 2D characters live in it. And that's something that I don't know if I haven't seen all of your films. I haven't seen your earliest films. So, but that seems to be a shift. Like now, having read your autobiography, that you have a background in puppetry, you know, and also loving Jan Svankmajer. I go, oh, I see those influences in here. But can you talk a little bit about why you decided to move into this hybrid form?
it's a very nice question. I love it. I mean, because, you know, I I didn't study art. I studied philosophy. So for me, I can barely draw, you know. So when I started out, everything was very simple. My drawings were very simple, and it was dismissed as cute, but not really art or worthy of mentioning anything. And so, you know, I understood my limitations, but I still wanted to tell the story in a way of moving images. And so I just pressed on, and I was like, whatever, I don't care what you guys think, I'm just gonna press on. And so I made these films one after another. And you know, I think that lack of talent or ability is compensated by determination, you know, in my case. And so I had plenty of determination. I don't know where the determination comes from, but I just felt that if I stay in the same place and I keep digging, I can dig deep enough, you know. And so I kept digging. And so, of course, after a while, you know, run into limitations, and you say, oh, you know, I can only draw a character from this profile and that profile, but what happens in between, you know, I cannot animate the head turns or the body turns, or I cannot show the gestures that and I have it in my mind, the characters moving in a certain place. So around 2005, I started going to live drawing. That was first time. I was intimidated by it. It was like, you know, like early on when I was 18, I tried to go to live drawing sessions, and the teachers there, it was in Moscow, the teachers there said, you know, you just don't have it. You know, like you draw this. Yeah, you draw yeah, you draw this ball and you give it this whatever it was, like you, like the teachers are like, you don't have it, just forget about it. And like, why do you need to go into arts in the first place, you know? And they were really dismissive, and I was like, okay, I don't have to do this, right? But around 2008 2005, I was like, I have to do it for me. I don't want anyone's approval. And so in New York, I found a studio, Spring Street Studio by Minerva Dunham, where it's like a very tolerant environment. Anyone can come, and there's no judgment how you draw. Like, there's nobody looking over and telling you how to draw. I was like, I don't want anyone to tell me how I draw. And I started drawing. And I was just drawing and drawing. And I was like, I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm hoping one day I will start get better, right? And so then that was 2005. And it was just when I finished my film Dentist. And my next film that I was developing at the time was Birth. And as I started working on a Birth, and it was like a long process. That film took like 4 years to make, because I even made tidbit of sex in between. but I could feel like, and I even see it now, you watch Dentist and you watch Birth, there is a big development into the artistic kind of approach, what I'm able to draw, how I'm drawing the characters. There's a change in that. And not like perfect drawings, are definitely far from perfect, but it improved. So in any case, and then, yeah, you know, I always wanted to do stop motion, but I never dared to do it because stop motion only is worth something if you know how to do lighting. Also, in drawings, when you draw something, you know the reference. The one drawing refers to another, you know, and then stop motion is like, where is the reference? Where is that thing? Where, you know, how you keep it in your brain, right? Or how do you even do it? How do you raise the hand where you don't see the movement before, you know? And so, I mean, of course, now Dragon Frame can help you with that, but I didn't know in 2000 or before that there was no Dragon Frame. 2005, I didn't know much about Dragon Frame, so I wasn't gonna go into that whatsoever, because I felt I didn't have expertise and experience. But then one time, I think it was around 2007 or something, I was invited to do mural for this fashion designer Aspesi in Milan, and I went there and he said, I really like your mural, can you do these papier-mâché things for me, sculptures? So I made 32 papier-mâché sculptures for him, and for his store, and he loved them, and I loved making them, and I had no idea I was able to do anything like it, right? And I was like, that would be amazing to have these three-dimensional things, and they're so three-dimensional. They're like, there's no flatness, they're three-dimensional things, and everything is happening at every single angle as you turn them around, right? And I was like, I would love to incorporate this kind of thing in my work, except again, I don't know stop motion. I don't know how to even start with. And in a way I decided to reconcile it is to have the three-dimensional sets, like sets made of paper mache, and then draw on top. And I thought, you know, I'm gonna make very surreal backgrounds, very surreal like sculptures. But it didn't exactly work that way, because once you start telling the story tells you what it wants. And so the story wants kind of more recognizable places. It wants to have this or it wants to have that. So I didn't really force my surreal paper mache backgrounds. I kind of went along with what story wanted. And the same was with and I really enjoyed that, making the three-dimensional sets and drawing the characters inside. I felt that in Rocks in My Pockets it went quite well, but it wasn't to the full. I wanted more. I wanted to develop it. I wanted to dig deeper. So when we started My Love Affair is Marriage, that was like, that's how I wanted to do it. And Sturgis, my partner, he also said, I want to be part of it. I want to be part of building these sets. And so he built a lot of very nice sets. I can show you actually. We're looking at, so here is a set made in paper mache. This is made entirely in paper mache. There is no wooden structure whatsoever. It's made of paper. This is like all paper, and this is paper, this is paper. And if you see the, I don't know if you can see, but the trees have faces. Yeah, like I mean, most of them have faces, yeah. So that is one way of doing the set. And here is a set that Sturgis built, an apartment, and it has you know, the opening doors. You can open and close the doors, and so that is like one kind of set. And then what else I can show you? Yeah, well, here's an art gallery. So that is
lovely.
Yeah. Oh, and here are paper mache trees. They're made of paper entirely. If you can see, they're scrolled up like cigars. So here I introduce you to Sturgis. He is not gonna hear what you say, but here he is.
Hi, Sturgis. Nice to see you.
Okay. Oh, and then here's our shooting room, if you want to see the shooting room. our final set. Oh no, I can't show you a shooting room because there's no light. No, it's just I have only one hand. Oh yeah, can you turn on this one if you plug it in? I'm holding the laptop and I cannot. But so here's the final set, and Sturgis is going to turn the light on. And here's the camera, moving camera now. Ann Marie, you have done stop motion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you have experience and understanding of this. Is the final set, and yeah, like Sturgis now is turning on the lights on and
Gorgeous.
off.
Gorgeous. What an
Yeah.
amazing studio. What an amazing
What?
studio. I said, what
Oh
an
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
studio you have. And you know, this is also like, how did you find making this film during COVID in Brooklyn?
Oh, that was amazing. Well, let me tell you about that when we sit down, when I
Yeah,
go back. But this is our reel
please keep going.
wheel,
Yeah, yeah.
the rail. Sorry, this is our rail for the on the. Yeah, so the Sturgis is gonna move the rail, and the camera is on top. So you know for pans and zooms and all that. This is a rail we got from Jimmy Picker, stop motion animator, who had it since 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he went out of business and he sold this to us and all that. Yeah, so this is the shooting room, and Sturgis is also a lighting designer. And okay, so I go back to the my table. So the question was very nice question, or I wouldn't say nice question, but it was about how do we continue work during pandemic and in Brooklyn. So as you can see, the studio is quite spacious and quite big. And so when the pandemic struck, we had like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 interns, and then we had 6, we were 6, we had 4 employees, and then me and Sturgis, right? And so, but like when, like in the middle of March, we had to let everybody go. And it was kind of frightening and tragic, because also we saw a lot of things that, I mean, I'm still traumatized by what I have seen, what we had to go through, and what was happening around us. But sometime in June, and then some people were able to work from home and some people were not able to work from home. So, but then how they're going to live, like our employees. So we had to let.
This is 2020.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we had to readjust. We had to let some people go, and then we had to ask other people to come back. And then meanwhile, we were worried about the economy collapsing. And so what's going to happen then? But we got some grants just as it was collapsing. So it turned out it wasn't so entirely bad. So we started back work in June 2020. And somehow, and we all worked as masks, and we had all distance, and so it felt safe. But what the funny thing, what happened was that everybody came back to studio. It was 5 of us working, me and Sturgis, and then 3 employees, Yasemin, Sophia, and John. And somehow, because of everything that we knew, we could lose everything in a split second. People were working, or we all were working more diligently, more focusedly, more kind of like there's no distractions. And I felt that the work for that one last year went much faster, much smoother, much more in a better pace than before. So, and probably because we didn't have interns. Interns is a great distraction. But it was really quite amazing to have that feeling that we were like really gliding towards the finish line. And then the finish line arrived exactly a year later in early June 2021. We finished all the work, like building sets and animating and shooting and everything in the studio. And now our Latvian studio is finishing down production, and we have post-production in Luxembourg in the sound design. So So I felt that if anything, this lockdown thing came as a blessing to the project. But of course, this suffering and the fear and anxiety surrounding it wasn't easy, so yeah.
Yeah, it was very intense. And of course, we all saw the images of New York and Brooklyn, early spring 2020.
Yeah, it was really. I think that because of what we went through, that New York was like so ready to vaccinate. So it was just as the moment we had vaccines, everybody jumped on it. And I still don't understand how some people have the hesitancy or doubt or anything. One of our actors died. The people who recorded the voice. Yeah, Clyde Baldo. He died of complications from COVID in December 2020, and so it's very tragic. And Sturgis had a lot of friends who died during the wave because of the actors, singers, like talking and singing. In March, there are still shows going on. And so there's a lot of infections. So yeah, it was really not an easy time.
Yeah. Well, things are better, but we're still in it. We're still really in it. And if I can pivot again, well, let me just say, when you wonder where your determination comes from, when you look at your stories about your family, especially the women in your family, but everyone in your family, it seems that you come by your determination quite legitimately, that you come from a family of very, very, very strong-willed people, and who go their own way, regardless of consequences.
I mean, the families. I think my family is as complicated as any other, and there are there is like a will and determination and fight, and then there are moments when people just give up, and so then I just gives you an example what would happen if you gave up. And so when sometimes when I was younger, especially, I was thinking, if I just can if I married, everything will be fine. Or if I only had a house, everything would be fine. If only I had this or that, it would be fine, right? And nothing brings you happiness, nothing relieves you from the pain that you feel. And so then you say, well, if I just rested up for a few days, I would be fine. Like if I just didn't have a project for like a couple of years, I would be fine. No, by this age, I know that if I just didn't have to do this animation, I would be feeling much better. That would be death, meaning that would be giving up.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, I mean, making animated feature film independently is a great cause or great source of suffering. It's really, really painful, and it's really, really unpleasant on daily basis. And people say, don't you enjoy, that saying, don't you, if you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life. And I'm like, oh, I really, really suffer. But then I know that if I did not do it, right? If I said, oh, I eliminate the cause of suffering in my life, it would be giving up, and I would drown and I would die.
I have to say that the end of Rocks in My Pockets is so beautiful, because for those of you who haven't seen it, it's about generational depression and a lot of suicide in your family, a lot of that kind of it's enough. But it starts off with a story, a myth of your grandmother standing in a river and ostensibly trying to drown herself, but she floats because she doesn't have rocks. And then at the end of the film, you recreate the story where you're there and you give her the rocks, and she doesn't want the rocks, because if she had the rocks in her pocket, she'd sink. right? And I thought that's so perfect, right? Because we're always up to here. We always feel like we're just barely hanging on and that we can't do it anymore. But in fact, we can and we do walk forward as far as we can, you know? So I thought it was a really beautiful, beautiful ending. And now I segue to my next question, which is, what made you, I mean, I love musicals. I've also done some musicals, short. What made you decide that the musical was the form for My Love Affair with Marriage?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's a very good question, because I don't really have a good answer to you. I'm not musical whatsoever. Like, I'm totally not musical. And and we have 23 songs in the film, and so it's actually quite a lot of songs.
Didn't you write the songs?
Lyrics, yeah.
The lyrics,
but
yeah.
not the you know, that it's just, I guess that's a story that wanted to be told that way, because I was writing the you know, I was writing the script, and then one day some of the characters started speaking in verses, singing, you know. And I'm like, and I brought the pages to Sturgis, who every weekend we would look over the things, and he said, "Oh, now we are writing a musical, right? Like, how did that happen?" And I'm like, I don't know, it just felt right, and it felt like these particular characters had to sing. And I think that the musical is something that animation is naturally good at, you know, because it's an elevated storytelling form. It's like most like a fairy tale, like it really, and it is kind of specific in time and place, but it also isn't. So it has that feeling of relatability of the time, you know, but it's a fairy tale, but it isn't, right? So a musical is an interesting kind of a beast. But in this case, in My Love Affair with Marriage, it's a justified singing. So the characters slug through the life, and it's the difficulties of life, and it's kind of realistic suffering, and then suddenly these characters appear and start singing. And so that makes total sense when you watch it, I hope.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. The bits that I've seen are just lovely. Tying these two things together, the two films, besides thematically and artistically, they have so much in common. They also have something very difficult in common, which is crowdsource funding. That you actually went back to Kickstarter after your experience with Rocks. I can't believe anybody would do that, would go back to crowdfunding. It's so hard. It's another job on top of the job of making the film. So can you talk about your experience with that a little bit?
Yeah, it was recently a friend of mine said, "Can you please talk to my friend? She wants to crowdfund her game." And I said, "Okay, I'll talk to anybody. You know, I mean, I want to help people, right?" So she comes and we have a Zoom meeting. And so she talks to me, and what's the difficulty and how to prepare. And I tell her all my little things. And then she says to me, you know, a question. She says, "How did you feel? How did you feel about it, right? Like doing all this?" She said, "It sounds like an insane amount of work and effort." And I said, "Well, let me tell you how I feel about it, how I felt about it when it was happening." I said, it was at 9 in the morning, right after breakfast, I would have a panic attack. And a panic attack where I'm like, I think I'm gonna die. I have a stress so big that I'm gonna die. And I had that at 9 o'clock. And then I had another one at 3 o'clock, just like that, where I was so stressed out, I couldn't hold myself. I couldn't even like stand up. My legs are like wobbly, and I thought that I'd die. Like, it felt like really feeling that if like a little bit more stress, and I'd be like out, right? And then I felt the same around 9 in the evening.
Yeah.
And I said, and it was like, you know, for 30 days, every day, three. Oh, she said, no, that's not for me. She said, I know exactly what you panic attacks. She says, I have them for the slightest reason, right? Like, you know, like something like a cat runs across the road, I have a panic attack. I said, well, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Crowdfunding's not for you. It was so hard. I mean, you did make lovely artifacts like this. I love this. I love this. But it is hard. I mean, what I found was important about it is a way to reach out and say, I am here. This is coming. You know, look for me, right? That it's really good for word of mouth. It's really good for the profile of your film, you know, besides the money that you do get, of course. Like it helps to build excitement. And because it's its own train, it forces you to get to the next stage, right? Because people want more. You have to give people more. How is it going? Now you have all these eyeballs that you're also responsible for, you know, that in some perverse and horrible way, it's helpful. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kickstarter campaign makes you do uncomfortable things, like things that you would not normally do. Like I still wouldn't do on my own. I only have to do it when I do Kickstarter, and then you know, and then always want to be liked by people. But when you run a Kickstarter campaign, that is not gonna work out because some people are gonna unsubscribe from your freaking email barrage list, you know, like, and some people are gonna hate you and unfriend you on Facebook, you know, and then some people are gonna love it, right? And you have to kind of take the good with the bad. But for me, the Kickstarter campaign did connect the project with, you know, 1,800 people. And we are, you know, not like everybody's following. I mean, some people forgot about it probably already, but there is a core that is following. And for them, our journey is, and being informed about the journey and being part of the journey is the reward, you know, like, and seeing the effort, and then the mutual kind of like, it's a dialogue that doesn't end, and we explain our troubles and we explain our problems, and they, you know, and there's an interaction, you know.
I think it's meaningful. I think there's a meaningful participation in the artistic process that some people really appreciate. And especially in times like this last year and a half and going forward, you know, to be able to have these kinds of connections between people who are all working in their own separate boroughs, you know, is really quite amazing. And you provided, you know, a lot of material. You had a lot of exchange. I think you were very interactive with your
yeah, I mean, but you kind of have to, because there is a responsibility, you know, towards the people, and also because when we run the Kickstarter campaign, we thought the film would be done by, you know, 2020 or something like that, and it just didn't happen. And so you had to kind of explain and show the process and the difficulty, you know. I do think that the film took so long, 6 years, you know, because I underestimated it. You know, I was just like writing 29 speaking and singing characters, you know. I think it was delusional. I mean, meaning with a small, you know, like I'm this like single animator animating, and then we had to hire another animator who animated all the biology parts. But still, it's like a lot of minutes to animate, and then there are like these 29 singing and speaking characters, and then there's hundreds of characters that don't have even a name. They just walk through or they stand, you know. It's like what I was thinking. I don't know. When I conceived Rocks in My Pockets, the conception of that film was the simplicity of that film was like, it was a purpose that I was like, how can I make a film under $100,000, you know, like for cheap, and this is how I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna do it as simply and like my own voice, so I don't have to pay actors, and I will have, you know, these three-dimensional sets that make people to something to look at, right? And so that was, I thought about it. And so of course, you know, after you finish that kind of film, you say, I want to go a little bit more complicated. But I think with my love affair marriage, I went over the board. Like I really kind of like forgot that I have to animate all this, you know. And so, and then also we got the SAG-AFTRA actors. I don't know if you know the particular pain of SAG-AFTRA.
I know it very, very well. And for a micro budget film, SAG doesn't care. They don't care. No, it was very, very difficult. My next question was actually going to be what was your casting process like?
Well, very, very smoothly and very beautiful, because Sturgis, my partner Sturgis, he's also actor and theater director. And so he is very well connected to theater community in New York. And so he was able to get the best of the best actors. And then the actors that, some actors we didn't even audition, or I mean, actually we didn't audition anybody because they were just straight offers, you know. So because he was certain that people could do it, he knew it because of his experience. And then he had to coach me how to direct actors, because as an animator, I don't get to direct actors, you know.
Oh, this was your first time?
Yeah, I mean, no, I directed actors for Birth, and and then for Tiny Shoes, and I was young. Yeah, I directed actors, but I find directing actors very intimidating, because what do I know? And so, you know, and I see a lot of animated feature films done independently that have amazing actors, but the acting job is horrible. And I'm not like being specific here, I'm just in general, right? So a lot of, you know, great actors poorly directed, right? And it is because animators don't know how to direct actors.
It's funny because I always think of animators, because people come to me for the opposite reason. They're not used to working with animators, right? They're going, how do you talk to an animator? And I said, well, you have to think of animators as very, very slow actors. Because it's the same process. It's the same process of bringing these characters alive, making them real and believable, you know. But I love it. I love working with actors. It's one of my favorite parts of filmmaking.
Well, now that I directed almost like 25 actors, because I had to direct them like English speaking actors, and then I had to direct Latvian speaking actors. Yeah. And so and I think that I have the kind of, I wouldn't say like I know how to do it, but I have a better idea of how to get the performance to go the way I imagined, you know. And but there were sometimes like there's like one time I thought, oh, I don't think we are gonna get the performance from this actor, but then it just snapped into place somehow magically, and so we got an amazing performance from that actor. So I don't know, but it is I think it's very, for an animator, it's very difficult to direct an actor. It's like, how do you reach into another person's to, you know, how do you tell them what the character is like, right? And how to express that words that are on script, you know, how the actor is, how to help actor to give enough information so they can actually give life to the character. And I think it's difficult for an animator, because, you know, we've spent most of the time alone, you know.
But you have this beautiful gift of your characters, right? There they are, right? You can show the characters to the actor.
Meaning, you know, in what way? Just actually, a drawing. Yeah, but that doesn't help them.
No,
no, I don't think that the drawing helps to an actor to understand I mean, at least the way how I see, they see a drawing, it's just a drawing, but what's the character? Like, what's the circumstances? What's the stake? Like, why they are saying these things? You know, like there's one scene where the actor wanted to know, like, why would my character say such a thing? It's like, it doesn't make sense. And he said, well, I could say it, but I you know, but I don't feel it. And so then I had to explain the whole character, the whole life of the character, which I knew, of course. I knew exactly where the character is coming from, why they were saying things they were saying. And then the actor said, oh, I see. Okay, now it makes sense. Now it clicks together, right? So, or, you know, we had an actor who had to cry, you know, like a scream and cry and wail. And so what, like how do you take an actor there? I mean, a good actor probably could do, but you want the actor know why there's a wail and scream, why she says the words, the character says the words that she says. So I mean, I think that is, you know, it's like I was intimidated by it. That's
wow. But it's so funny to hear that you're intimidated, because you of all people love to explain why. You love that opportunity. Or am I?
No, you're totally right. I mean, of course, I love talking about my characters, right? I could talk for day and night. But I just don't know if, because, you know, like you can talk all you want, and at the end of the day, did they understand it? Are they able to transform to transform the thing that you said into the internalize it and express it, you know? It's like, and also because I don't really know, because I'm not an actor. I may be performer, but I'm not an actor. I don't know what the process is, you know? Anyway, but Sturgis is, since as an actor, he said, okay, let me train you. So so we would sit down, you know, before the recording session. He would like, okay, let me, now I'm gonna read the script, you know, and you're gonna direct me. So he opens the script and he starts reading it, and I would be interrupting right away and said, that was terrible, can you do better?
Oh no, that's not good. No, that's not good. It's like, no. Okay, good. Okay, and what was the lesson?
And then he says, no, stop here. Okay, the lesson number 1, do not ever tell actor that it was terrible. He says, you always say, let them finish, and then you say, that was good. Now let's try another way, right? And now let's take another take while you try this. And I'm like, but try what? And he says, well, you know, like in this case, you know, you can say the character, now that was great, but now let's try where the character is in a hurry and has to say it like really fast, but also very clear. And because they're not sure if they would be understood. And I'm like, okay, so try that. So he says, and I'm like, no, that was terrible. He says, lesson number 1, remember that?
We'll go back to lesson number 1.
Yeah, he took me about like 15 times.
Wow.
Till I remembered lesson number 1.
Yeah.
And it was, and I still like, I think that is the hardest lesson, actually. Oh, that was terrible.
But you know what? That is the best lesson. That's the best lesson for life. That's the best lesson for all our social interactions, all our relationships, and our relationship with ourselves. Don't start with that was terrible. Say something nice to others and to yourself, and then you can go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, Signe, I have like a million things I'd love to talk to you about, and I can't wait till we are actually in the same place at the same time. I can't wait.
I know you should we should, come. You've been to my studio?
I have been to your studio.
You should come again. We make a party for you again.
Yeah, well, you know, Canadians aren't allowed south, but you guys are allowed north. Yeah, don't come yet.
Okay, so tell me what you're working on right now.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's interesting. I'm developing a couple of feature-length films that I've been working on forever. one is about, you know, how the end of, how we can save the world from not being the end of the world, and the other is Shanghai Follies, which is based on my, but I'm just finishing. I often don't do my own animation, right? Lately I haven't been doing my own animation, but I've been working with this project with a new music project, Standing Wave Ensemble here, and they commission compositions by Canadian composers, and they sometimes commission a media component of that. And I was in the middle of, it's, you know, it's a very small commission, but I was in the middle of an ASL class because of COVID and the masks. I was very, on the one hand, we have a lot more profile of signers, but on the other hand, it's so hard for people in deaf community who do sign. Like the grammar of the face has been removed. So I took a few months to learn sign language, and I really wanted to represent, like I'm a musician, I can read music, you know, but a lot of people can't. So if you can't read music and you can't hear music, how can you experience music exactly as the composers, the instrumentalists experience it? So I tried to create a visual representation of this. So a lot of it is.
That's amazing. You know, it's funny you should say to me, because yesterday we went to see Coda.
Oh.
You know you know that movie?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and that was music and sign language.
Oh my goodness.
And well, experience how to experience music if you're deaf. And there are some scenes that like blew my freaking mind away. There are like scenes that I was like, God, this is like genius, you know?
I don't know that my images are going to rise to that level.
No. They're not images. I mean, it's not an animation, it's a live action. So it has nothing to do with like images. It was about, you know, the people connecting, you know, through, you must see it, yes, but that is definitely, I didn't mean to say, this is what you're saying is entirely different from what the film was about, right?
Right, but it is, I think it is more in people's minds, the different ways that we communicate, and the people that are affected in different ways by well, particularly by COVID, but by our society generally, our invisible experiences, which I think is what your films are all about, our invisible experiences, and to some extent what I do. So Signe, thank you so much. I don't want to take any more of your time. I understand you have a film to finish.
No, we're still under like pressure, like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but I know it's going to be amazing, thought-provoking, funny, touching, sad. And we're all going to want to see more. I truly am. I'm going to end this with what I started. I'm a huge fan, and just keep on doing what you're doing, because it's so worth it for all of us.
Thank you. And same here. I'll keep doing what you're doing, and we all need you, and we need your next new film. And I'm a big fan of yours. So
yay!
All right.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much.